Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Behind the Counter. I'm your host, Rich Stambolian, and with me as always is superstar Jonathan Adler.
I'm not a superstar.
You are.
No, you're a superstar.
No, I'm not.
You're very much a superstar in my life.
I'm a supercar.
You're my North Star. My big gay North Star.
Terrible. Did you read that? Did you read that article about Skyrim on that?
Talk about Skyrim?
Which both our eyes lit up, almost fell out of our heads. I think there's like a fake Christian website that posts serious articles about how Skyrim is like the portal to gay Satan worship.
Well, it is. I mean, that's why I play it. That's why I plunked out my $60. I spent hours on that. Oh. I want my gay portal in my house.
It's like what was the movie with the gate?
Oh, with the with the little kid who has the worst night in hell.
That kid has the worst night, and that movie Invaders from Mars, where the kid wakes up.
Oh, that's messed up too.
Yeah,
that used to give me like really like terrible fear. Mm-hmm. The gate used to really mess me up because I never understood how he's gonna explain to his parents.
Exactly,
because he blows the top of the house and has a huge gaping hole to hell.
Yeah,
and what was it called? Invasion from Mars?
I think it was Invaders from Mars, yeah.
Yeah. That one, like everyone the kid knows gets turned into a bad guy.
Yeah, and they all had like the little nubs on the back of their neck.
The Band-Aids.
Yeah. And then the end of the movie was a dream, but then he wakes up and it's happening.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah,
those
things, frightening.
Those were really, really terrifying because they were like kids in like terrible, terrible real world situations with demons and aliens.
Those were also the two movies I think when we were kids.
I forgot about that movie. Thank you, Rich.
No problem. I hope I can give you a lot of nightmares tonight.
I will. I'm gonna try and look for it tonight.
But those are like two like of the offshoot '80s movies where like you said, like who's gonna explain this to their folks? '80s movies usually wrap up with like the folks coming home at the end of the party. You know, they're like, nothing happened, Mom, Dad.
But I think that in every movie, like when you watch like Iron Man. Like, they destroy all of the city. Like, Iron Man is fighting and, like, he's breaking shit, like, going through homes. I'm like, how are they going to explain this in the morning?
He's government contracted. He can afford it.
But, like, everything is destroyed.
Plus, Marvel's got damage control.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a whole team of people that come and clean your shit up.
Clean your shit up, yeah.
But I was more terrified of, like, the gate just because it was, like, they leave it on it like their parents are about to come home.
What a downer.
Yeah. It's like, that dog's dead and, like...
How are they going to clean the house?
That gives me anxiety.
Well, the house is completely destroyed. You know?
Yeah, it was a complete disaster.
You almost get like that with Weird Science too, but then it had the sweet ending.
Yeah, I was just worried about Robert Downey Jr. banging my girlfriend.
And the Hills Have Eyes showing up on a bike.
Oh God! And Road Warrior at the same time. Hills Have Eyes and Road Warrior in the same room.
Oh yeah, that's
frightening. Right. And that guy with the weird like cyborg face, who just talked like It's a bad robot. That's a bad robot impression.
Terrible robot. Yeah, man, not really much
going on
news this week. Nothing going on.
Nothing going on.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.
It was yesterday.
No thanks.
And a happy birthday to Frankie McCabe.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
we're still celebrating.
Yep. Even though you're not here, we're still celebrating your birthday.
I heard all about it.
He's dead now.
Slow news week this week. What do we got? Pretty much nothing.
Booster Gold
is going to Sci-Fi as option. They're optioning a script for a Booster Gold TV series, which means that they're buying a script that's not going to be turned into anything probably for another couple of years. My big thing is who cares?
Yeah, man. Like, listen, I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with it. I mean, the Booster Gold series proved you can really do an awesome, Booster Gold centric story, with time travel and anything. But that would work so well because it fed into its own history.
Yeah,
you had access to all the DC characters and everything, and he's a very, very much a niche character. I don't think some like dickhead with a blonde coif and gold armor is going to do well on television.
No,
did you ever see do you see when he was on Smallville?
No,
he looked terrible. He looked like frightening. He made me like get physically sick.
What did he have like on? Did he have like the gold outfit on Smallville? Because I know they messed with everybody's costumes on it.
He had the full gold boosker.
The Boosker.
I just had a picture of him.
Sorry, people who are watching. I'm sure there's a lot of Smallville fans out there. The only thing I ever watched of Smallville is that JSA episode where like you had that crazy Hawkman.
I couldn't get through that one either. Yeah, the Hawkman looked awesome. The Hawkman looked really awesome.
And who'd you have in there? You had Stargirl.
Yeah.
And I think did Sandman show up in that or no?
No way.
Like
Wesley Dodds.
Yeah. No, Dr. Fate was in it, right?
Yeah. I don't think there's Sandman. They keep on trying to write Sandman out. Never liked it. Never enjoyed it.
No.
We're both in the same world with that.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's like
No, it's not rough.
It's well, I mean, you know, like certain things I consider like rough for being like a comic fan and not liking. Like, I don't like it. I'm sorry, I don't like Smallville. I don't like Big Bang Theory. I think Big Bang Theory is one of the biggest pieces of garbage to ever come on TV.
Yeah.
Again, I apologize, and that felt really good saying that. On TV, by the way, that felt fantastic. I feel like I could fly out the window right now.
Throw it out. Throw it all out. What else do you hate? Tell me what you hate.
That's about it.
Like in the comic book world.
In the comic book world, I don't know, man. Like
you're the positive one, so
I am the positive one. But that Frank Miller thing that happened a couple of weeks ago really got my ire up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you know this, Andrew, or anybody out there, but Frank Miller did like a big, like a huge tirade on the Occupy Wall Street thing. You know, I heard that. And like which was awesome is that the comic community responded to him. Like all these creators and artists were like, "When did this guy lose his shit?"
Always, always. The guy's always been a screw up.
Yeah.
He's just like. I don't want to talk politics. He's such a scumbag, man. It was just like such a shady thing to say, and just like really like it was like the old man chatting from his porch.
Yeah,
and it's like, dude, you wrote Batman, like Dark Knight, and you're like your third act story of the thing was a youth revolution.
Right, exactly.
You know, like this old man coming over and like saying like, oh, you dudes are gonna be training with me. You're gonna ride horses. We're gonna freaking take over Gotham City.
I'll teach you the real revolution.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, you know, the Batman Year One thing was like the most quoted thing. The whole line, you will no longer eat off of Gotham's plate or whatever it was. This is what this guy wrote about. Guy wrote about crime, but like, dude, you know what it is? Like, someone brought it up. I think it was Mark Miller who actually came and defended him. He says like, if I followed everybody that I read's political, you know, opinion, I wouldn't follow anybody. Yeah. You know, Orson Scott Card is somebody who you don't want to go into his politics.
Right.
John Byrne. But I like there's like a weird corrosion that comes along with them with like their, you know, because did you read Holy Terror?
No, I passed.
Oh my god, I read it like last week.
Well, that was supposed to be the Batman. They pitched it as a Batman 9/11 story.
It was it's Batman versus Al Qaeda.
Okay,
but they took the Batman out and they made it this guy named the Fixer.
Okay,
and it's horrible. Yeah, it's like there's a rain of nails. There's a Mossad agent with a Star of David on his face. Great. It's just like, and his art is terrible. It's just like, it looks like crap, dude.
I mean, I enjoyed previous Frank. I enjoy the stuff that everybody likes. You know, Dark Knight Returns. I like My Year One. All the Sin City stuff I really like. What really made me not enjoy Frank Miller is when he did Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Yeah, that was a wake up call.
Because that was when he started infusing it with like his weird politics. You know.
Well, that was actually the. One of the two books that got me back in the comics. I was completely off of comics, and I came back because like, oh man, like Dark Knight Strikes Again, it's Frank Miller. How could it possibly be bad? And I bought it begrudgingly. It came out. It took so long for it to come out, so I was like coming to comics to see it was coming out. That was terrible.
This was before the internet too.
And oh my god,
hey, dog here.
And what was the other one? Oh, Wolverine Origins.
Wolverine, you know what? Out of both of them, Wolverine Origins is still a great effing comic book. Dark Knight Strikes Again. Did you feel upset after you read the whole thing?
I was really upset with that. I know. I like. You know what? It's like a car crash. You don't realize what happened. Like you read the first issue, and I'm like, oh, like everyone's skinny now. Like, and they have big hands and big feet, and it just is like a poor quality story.
Yeah.
But you don't like. You're not allowing. You're like in disbelief. You have like Stockholm syndrome from him.
It's true. That's 100% true, man. Because I'll read maybe Dark Knight Returns twice a year. You know.
Yeah.
It's a great read.
Twice.
You know. It's good.
I like to hold you up to that.
Twice a day.
5 times.
He's reading it right now.
Twice a day. It's actually under the desk.
He's got it tattooed underneath his eyelids.
I'm up to the part where Catwoman's a big fat whore.
My favorite part. When she gets dressed up as Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the comic.
Those guys, and also with that, again, that comic came out when we were kids, and like reading it as a kid, those guys, every thug with the bat on their face made me super uncomfortable when I was a kid.
Oh, and the swastikas too, man.
Yes.
Like the transvestite, what's his name? He was the one with the tits out and like the swastikas on him.
Yeah.
He was like one other character. And the baby always made like the blowing up baby always made me feel really uncomfortable. So I was like so jagged and gross.
Yeah, that swastika guy should have been the first red flag with future Frank Miller stuff.
Well, he loved. I mean, dude loves drawing swastikas. Yeah. And and you know what? This is a weird little thing because he always argues the swastika thing. He's always like, you know, it's like no, like, you know. The reason why Miko is throwing a swastika in the comic is because it's, you know, an ancient Japanese symbol. Like, yeah, it is. You saw it in what was that great kung fu movie?
Blade of the Immortal, the awesome comic book.
It was in Blade of the Immortal. It was in the Flying Guillotine, Master Flying Guillotine.
Yes,
it was on the Master Flying Guillotine's shirt.
Yeah.
But now it's like showing me that maybe he's
come on, guy,
terrible human being. He's a war criminal.
Yeah. Or something like that. But well, that was one of the responses. I think
Semite.
That was one of the responses that somebody said because he took a jab, I think, at the soldiers coming back from the Middle East, and I think the guy who did that big panel was like, what have you done for the country?
I threw swastikas at people in Ninja Stars.
But it sucks when it's like I have like a vested interest in I want to enjoy the people who are creating my art.
Yeah.
And if I find out, I think it's also like a time sensitive thing. Like if I find out that Michelangelo was like a scumbag and a rapist, I think I'd let it slide.
Wait. You talking about the Ninja Turtle?
Well, he is a scumbag and a rapist.
Oh my God.
The famous artist, Michelangelo.
I know what you're talking about. I'm on board.
If he ended up being that was like 700 years ago, so that's cool. Like everybody did that back then.
That's okay. I like the way you think. It's like Hitler. Yeah. That was only less than 100 years ago.
Or when you find out that what's his name, John Adams had a pet alligator, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. He's not a murderous and a rapist. No. Come on, let's go. Let's go on the show.
It's doggy time. Were you upset about Dark Knight Strikes Again, dog?
Yep. Yes, he is. I think the first person I was really disappointed with was John Byrne. I think that was the first wake up call of oh man, this guy's really sucks. And he was one of the first people to really gain an online presence.
Okay.
He was one of the very first ones to spearhead message boards and chat communities and anything. And then everyone kind of realized oh man, this is a really vile human being.
Yeah.
Peter David. Peter David got a lot of people pissed off at him when he first started communicating with his fans.
Yeah.
And now he's darling.
He's awesome. Yeah.
But also a lot of these guys are not used to hearing from the internet. It's a different generation. A lot of the older guys, they're not used to this whole thing.
Even the younger guys. Well, who we're talking about, John Byrne, he's one of the old school guys. This guy did Alpha Flight, did X-Men, he did so much stuff.
Next Men.
Did Next Men. Which they tell me is great, but I can't get into it.
Yeah, me neither.
But the whole thing with him is he was really pushing to communicate with people, and it just it ended up being a shouting match.
Yeah,
but now you find more people who are interacting in social media in comic books. A lot of them will not read reviews, they won't go anywhere near it, which is it's a double-edged sword because dude, you can become a better writer from that. If you do listen to some criticism, it's just you have to filter some of it.
Yeah, on a certain level, listen, a critic's job is to be a critic. That's why he got that job in the first place. He's good at criticizing.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody who's a reputable critic telling you, hey, listen, it was good, but it could be a little bit better, maybe that's the guy you should at least, hear his 2 cents out instead of, like you said, having a shouting match with somebody saying, you know what, I'm right and you're wrong. Nobody understands my pain.
Well, I think it was Brew Baker who brought it up that he should never read the comment section to an article,
right?
Because it's just you're going into the deep recesses of internet, trolling and the whole nine.
Well, the same thing what you do, right? A lot of people coming from TV go over to the internet and they're like, "Oh, how can they hate me?"
Yeah. I don't know how people hate me.
Yeah,
I'm very likable.
He is very likable.
Everybody just hates Rich.
I know. He's a bad guy.
I'm surprisingly the bad guy.
That's not true. I'm the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy.
He is the bad guy. So. Yeah, that's the bad guy.
That's the bad guy.
We, apart from all that, again, I don't know how we got on topic. We were talking about the Booster Gold TV show. One of the,
I think we were just filtering the hate.
One of the most lovable characters of all time, and we're like, F. Frank Miller, F. John Byrne.
I'm also pissed off that there's no Booster Gold anymore. And the Booster Gold that we know and love, all the time travel stuff that we have is not there.
It's weird that it's done. It's gone and it's written out of existence. Adam Strange is gone. Is Rand.
I just realized that Adam Strange is gone.
Mm-hmm. Adam Strange terrible. Is gone. Rand and Thanagar are probably gone. All the weird, all the planets.
Because that was a disaster.
They had a million wars.
It's so many wars.
There was a couple of years ago in DC where they didn't know what to do with the Cosmic Guys after 52, and it was just the Rand Thanagar war for 6 years.
Well, it was a cool plot point when they actually did with Rand Thanagar when they had to live in the same planet
when they made it Ranagar.
Yeah.
That's what it's done.
Supreme writing. You know what? And I stuck with it. There was all Jim Starlin stuff too.
Yeah.
They had the weird and the
I really like
Captain Comet. Yeah, so did I. But it just went on forever. Yeah. Because the first Adam Strange miniseries was so dope.
Yeah.
And then the second one was so dope. And then it just slowly like got filtered and weird.
I forgot who wrote the when he got the new armor that Pasquale Ferry was drawing.
Oh, that was
it was like the 6-issue miniseries where he wakes up on Earth and he doesn't know who he is, but then he's like, I'm Adam Strange and I'm the hero of Rand.
Yeah, that was dope. That was really, really cool. That was like when that was you, because you were always big on Adam Strange and I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was like the first like modern day Adam Strange thing I read, and I loved it. Like I fell in love with the character. You're a big fan of ray guns and jetpacks.
It's true, and he was always like one of my favorite characters because he was like a dude who was he was an Earthman who got zapped up to be the champion of this planet, which is completely like hokey sci-fi, like serialized stuff, And he'd get zapped up and he'd be there for like 24 hours and he'd fight whatever menace it is, and then he'd get beamed down to Earth, and he fell in love up there and he had a family.
Yeah.
But in the Silver Age, they basically had like him teaming up with like Superman and Batman, which had really nothing to do with anything at some point. He'd fight a monster and then like he'd say, "Hey Batman, like help me out with this."
Yeah.
And then he'd go back. But in the like a few years ago, they really upped him where like they really made him like the champion of this world, and that no other hero really knew what the F this guy was doing.
Yeah, and then people thought he was a psychopath for a while. The first time I ever read him, actually, just remembering it now, was in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Okay.
That was the first time I ever had like any type of touchstone with him.
Right.
And that was really cool because you'd have to I remember him. The whole story opens up with him like just running to a gas station, and he gets into the bathroom.
Right. And
he goes into the stall because that's where the Zeta beam is going to come and beam him up. And he's trying to get to it, and people think he's a psychopath.
He had to always run to get the Zeta beam.
Yeah, because the Zeta beam's not always there. It's always pinpointed somewhere else.
Who's the who's like his father-in-law, the crappy doctor?
Oh, he became a bad guy at the end of the stuff too. I want to say like Captain Zahn or something like that.
Captain Zahn.
Captain Zahn. It was something like that. It was like Ran or Ron or
Dr. Ron.
Dr. Ron. It was Dr. Ron. It's Captain Ron.
Captain Ron.
It was Captain Ron. It was Kurt Russell, and when he wore an eye patch.
But I would rather see an Adam Strange TV show than.
I think an Adam Strange show would be actually really awesome.
It really would. I think TV needs a good dose of eclectic sci-fi. Apart from because you had
Fringe.
You have Fringe. You had Battlestar Always Ended.
You have dinosaurs,
and then you have Terra Nova.
Yeah,
and it's dinosaurs.
But you know what it is? Like people fight like so long because there's so little like good sci-fi out there.
And Doctor Who.
Yeah. There's really like and also Misfits on BBC, which is my favorite. They always fight to like hold on to these sci-fi shows. Like people who like hate Terra Nova watch Terra Nova just to support that type of show.
Yeah.
And it sucks, dude. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah, because I have like a friend like that from high school who like I'm still in touch with, and like he's the exact guy you described, where it's like any weird crappy sci-fi show that comes on,
it's not bad.
He'll like get upset that it's like it was only on for one season. Like why?
Not bad.
I'm vested into like good example, Lex. And
Lex.
Yeah, it was on Sci-Fi for like maybe 4 seasons.
I remember Lex.
What is Lex?
And then Farscape.
Yeah. Well, I you know what? I can't say anything about Farscape because I've heard so many people who have very good taste and stuff tell me all about Farscape and how awesome it is.
Lex, I think, was 2 seasons.
Yeah, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
It was on Sci-Fi?
I think it was on...
Stayed away from Sci-Fi for a very long period of time.
I don't think it was... It may not have been Sci-Fi. It may have been on like Channel 11 for a while. Like around when Deep Space Nine was wrapping up.
Oof. I used to watch some Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine is good.
Sci-Fi actually has a new show coming out. Stan Lee's Search for the New Stripperella.
Oh, that'd be so good. Wow. I can't wait.
We need a brunette this time.
Let me tell you about wedges. They go on your feet and on your mouth.
Tell you about wedgies, too. Spider-Man always had a wedgie.
Look at those buns. Did you see that Bleeding Cool piece? That like was such a reach?
The
Teen Titans thing?
No.
He, on Wednesday when new comics came out, because they have a gay character on Teen Titans now. This guy's named Bunker or something like that.
That is a terrible name for a gay character.
I think it's like Bunker, something like that.
Stink Bunker.
And there's a shot of him. Like he's wearing like white jeans, and he has his back, and you can he's got a butt, And Bleeding Cool is like, this was the butt shot heard around the world. It's like it's totally blatantly gay. And like the whole entire Mexicon, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you talking about this? Like,
right,
it's not. You're really like reaching for a news story.
Slow news day.
It was a very very slow news day. But no, but the thing was is that we had like so many good comics that come out this week. But I feel like it's been a void because everyone's away and. The holidays.
There's nobody around to create the news.
No,
because sometimes you have like those bits where like people go on rants, and then you have like new stuff coming up. But you're right, it's the holidays, and this week delivered tremendously on comics.
Yes, it did.
Do you want to pop into them?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. We're going to talk about comics.
Is this what we call the Books of the Week segment?
The Books of the Week.
Do you want us to intro the segments from now on?
Look, we got a little graphic on it.
This is Behind the Counter with the Books of the Week. Stop farting to the mic.
No sound.
All right, let's. A lot of good stuff came out. Let's go with Wolverine and the X-Men.
Oh man, so good. All right, so this follows up right from the last one. You've got so much going on in this. Wolverine just opened his brand new school, the Jean Grey School of Higher Learning in the old Westchester Mansion. Chris Bachalo's art is phenomenal. Like
so good.
This dude's still doing the exact same way he did it for years. It's just so much tighter.
Yeah.
And you've got such a crazy group of mutants in this. You know, you've got the Brood. You got who's falling in love with
Edie.
Murderous Edie.
Yeah.
But the biggest part of this thing that a lot of people are going to talk about is early on in the beginning of the issue, Wolverine is surveying the Westchester Mansion grounds, and he's talking to Iceman. He says, like, you know what, like, you kind of have to step up.
Yeah.
You kind of have to, like, you know, you have the most potential out of all of us. You never stepped up. And the whole thing, Iceman's thinking to himself, he's like, what do you mean by that? And he does, dude.
Yeah.
Like, Iceman, like, they always kind of play with Iceman with powers, and I'm nervous because he can be a terribly powerful character.
Yeah.
But, dude, they do such a great job. He makes all these Iceman doubles, and they're all, like, unique and different. He's a snowman version, and, like,
so good.
and he makes out with Kitty Pryde.
Yep. And like this issue,
I know what you want to talk about on this.
No.
I know what you want to talk about in this.
I'll get to that in a minute. Does it start with a K, or does it start with an F?
The F.
Yeah. All right. So
Mr. F.
Number one. This is issue number 2. Jason Aaron has crammed in so much into the first 2 issues. Especially this one is a regular sized comic, and so much happened. You have the new school being bombarded, and going with Chris Bachalo's art. This dude is channeling like some crazy Art Adams stuff, man.
Yeah, dude. And this does not feel like a Jason Aaron book at all.
No. And so you have Wolverine talking to Iceman, like you said. He has like new ice powers. You have Brew falling in love with Edie, and then apparently the island that they're on, that they built the school on, like the piece of land, is Krakatoa from X-Men Giant Size X-Men.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a giant living island, and it's the Hellfire Club, who are all made up of little kids now.
Who are like the anti-X-Men because of the young generation.
Yeah, they're like super young, and they're all intelligent, and one of them happens to be a descendant of Victor von Frankenstein, and he sends Frankenstein clones to attack the X-Men.
So cool.
Like with flamethrowers.
Yeah, with flamethrowers. And it's messed up because he won't say that he's a Frankenstein. He hates hearing the word Frankenstein. Dude, it's so solid. It's such a solid book. It's just like action-packed. The whole thing is one very large fight scene, but there's so much dialogue and so many. He's juggling so many characters, and it's just tight. It's just so well done.
It's such a super cool book, and you have like you have like the old guys, you know, and then you have what's his name, Kid Gladiator.
Oh yeah,
who's like rocking and rolling, and you know, he's loving it. And then, you know, like you said, Iceman makes out with Kitty Pryde a little bit. And then you have Quentin Quire, who's saying like, I'm the only one who could stop this, but I'm not.
Yeah, he's the punk ass.
Yeah,
he's a. I'm glad they're really playing with his character, because like Grant Morrison created Kid Omega, Quentin Quire, who's a terribly powerful telepath. And they, you know, like they kind of killed him off, and now he's back.
Yeah.
But especially when you're talking about the new generation of mutants. His whole school aspect they're using in X-Men, which is kind of hasn't been used in a very, very long time.
Right.
He's a great like rebel punk character. Like that's the whole thing about this. It's very much like a book that's capturing the whole youth of X-Men.
Yeah.
Without making it just like, I don't know, like you get in other books. This one is the one that has a little bit more edge, and it's still light. It still feels like a fun book.
It's the best X-Men book that's come out in years.
Yeah,
you know, as far as
not to take away from Uncanny X-Men though.
Yeah, well, I mean, like this is your classic, like lighthearted, big danger scenario X-Men.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
and you don't know what's going to be around the next corner, because this it feels like this book is like, you know, what I love about X-Men is that they go from crisis to crisis, and they have a revolving team who deals with whatever crisis it is.
Yeah, man.
Know? And the fact that Iceman they're writing Iceman as him stepping up the game. He's one of the original 5.
Yeah, man.
And now he's going to be that Omega level mutant, It just freezes everything.
He's such a cool character. Well, in one of my favorite books on Kenny X-Force, he turned up the Age of Apocalypse version showed up, the Sinister Iceman.
Right.
And he is like the same deal where he's making all the doubles and he's a giant and like they're using so much cool stuff with him.
It's really cool, man. It's a really good book. Again, this is issue number 2, so issue number 1's still out there. Anybody who's watching who wants some fun X-Men stuff, just pick it up. You'll like it.
Or download it.
The cover is with Wolverine getting eaten by a monster.
Yep.
So it's pretty neat. Good book. Like we said.
Dude, it's a solid book. Yeah. It's really like if you're if you haven't read X-Men in a long time, this is a really, really great jumping on point.
Absolutely. Let's go into this is the only there's 2 books with the Shattered Heroes banner this week.
And 2 books by Fraction.
Yeah, 2 books by Fraction. So we'll do one of them now. Invincible Iron Man, number 510.
Rocked.
Really awesome issue. And
rocked.
I like, again, with a lot of the books this week, I didn't see the twist coming at all.
Which one?
The newspaper, the headline.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't. The whole thing with Iron Man is, for the last since Fraction's been in the book, and also a big credit to Salvador Larroca. It's an incredible visual book, and it's also the writing is so top notch. There's so much good stuff going on this. My favorite part of this book though is the fact that they brought over Split Lip from Asgard, the Asgardian dwarf. Yeah. He brought over. He befriended a dwarf in Fear Itself crossovers, and he was like the very loudmouth leader of the dwarf engineers.
He was the union boss.
Yeah, he was the union boss, and he also admitted that he's an alcoholic as well. He lives in a dwarf culture, so he doesn't have any idea that there is alcoholism. Right. But he's like, I want to die. I don't know how to drink. I don't know what to do when I'm not drinking. And so Stark recruits him, brings him over to Stark Engineering, and becomes his head engineer, which is an amazing concept and really a lot of fun to play with. Brings him to an AA meeting. But the stuff with Blizzard was awesome.
It's really cool because they amped up his outfit and everything, and then you have the whole little touch with which honestly as far as comic books go, it's a little cliche at this point with the bomb inside the chest.
Who had the bomb in the chest? Blizzard. Oh yeah.
That's one thing that I could do without for a little while. Yeah. But apart from that, the book was phenomenal. It was a stellar book. It was
so good. And the what they've done with Mandarin, Mandarin no longer wears his rings on his finger. He wears them on his spine. He's younger. And you also have what's his name? Zeke Stane is just an awesome, really relentless anti-Iron Man character.
And you have them both in this book. They team up, and you have Zeke Stane kind of carrying out these terrorist plots for one specific reason, and Mandarin is they don't even show he's not in a lair or anything being the Mandarin. He's
in bed most of the day.
He's getting prepped by chicks, and he's getting the suit on, and he's communicating with this guy. Yeah, he's a businessman, and Tony Stark, as we know, is also a businessman. And I really like the scene where he gets subpoenaed by
that was awesome,
by the hot blonde.
Yeah, he gets pulled over. Oh, he sees some hot blonde a broke down Ferrari. And he goes over to kind of hit on her and help her out, and she hands him a subpoena for they want to get the biometric readings off his suit to see if he was drunk while in the Iron Man costume
during Fear Itself.
Fear Itself, yeah, which he was,
which he completely was. So now he has to avoid that, and it gets it's a really cool crossing over between the superhero stuff and real life stuff, and then even more crazy tech stuff.
Yeah,
that goes into this book, and then even PR stuff. The book has a lot of PR elements that were thrown in Fraction's run. Because they're trying to be the better company. They're trying to establish themselves as a generator of green power and basically trying to help the Earth. And then the Mandarin, the climax of the issue is Mandarin has the next issue of the Daily Bugle, which is Iron Man crashing face first into the ground with the headline that just says drunk.
Dude, it's awesome. It's so well done. And what's cool that the Mandarin stuff has been such a slow burn. They started revitalizing Mandarin, I think almost a year ago.
It may have been a little longer than
that. And they usually when a creator comes on a book like this, one of the first thing they do is try and bring back the big bads. Right. He's taking so much time to create new bad guys and also kind of revitalize I still talk about now the Grey Gargoyle stuff. Yeah. It was so good and so well done. And that's a character who just totally kind of forgot about. Utilizing Blizzard, using those old characters. I love this type of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Iron Man always had a very interesting rogues gallery because they were just really weird dudes. You know, you had Ghost, who was awesome, and with the Ghost thing too is they patched it up. They had a weird conversation where he's like, "I'm not that guy anymore," and Ghost was like, yeah, you're not that guy anymore. All right, I'm gonna move on.
Yeah, because Ghost was always a corporate espionage guy. They never really. And the cool thing about Ghost is they really never really go into his like origin or that he never takes his mask off. Mm-hmm. He really is like a bit of a mystery character.
Well, they did his origin in Thunderbolts, right?
Yeah, but he was vague about it. Like they give you kind of like
it's a double story.
Yeah, it's he could be lying about it. Could be something that was planted. But he's a dirty dude. He's an awesome character.
And you guys like Grey Gargoyle. You have like the armored guys.
Bring back the Mauler, which is weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because he kind of that was cool because they give a little rundown of like different characters that are like working for Zeke and Mandarin.
Right.
And it was like Mauler and like he mentioned like a few other like
Living Laser.
Living Laser, yeah. Well, Living Laser always comes back. And he's another awesome visual character.
He is. He's a lizard man. He's a laser man.
He's a lizard man. You're a lizard man.
You have Titanium Man. You have Whirlwind and Stingray.
Yeah.
Who's like the underwater.
Yeah. And he's kind of a good guy. He's kind of a bad guy too.
So he is like a very interesting rogues gallery. You know, that was established. I would say like in the mid to late '80s.
Well, I think they want to get away from when they did all the latent stuff, like in the 80s, like the armor war stuff, it was always about a guy in a suit of armor.
Yeah.
So I think they're really trying to get away from that. And also make it a big thing they've been trying to do, especially since Warren Ellis was in the book originally, was make it more than just a guy in a suit of armor. Because anyone in the Marvel Universe can put a suit of armor on.
Yeah.
They always have to make Iron Man that much more techy and that much more futuristic.
Yeah, and with that, like, I really love the Extremis stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff, man.
In the Extremis Iron Man story, like he basically had like this new what was it? It was a formula, right? It was like a top secret formula or something.
Yeah, like it weaponizes your body.
Yeah, so the suit was inside his body the whole time. So he would just like the suit would ooze out of him, and he was like super internet.
Yeah, and he was connected to his entire network, like so he could he could spy on you. He can, he had all the satellites hooked up to his body. He was a really really cool revitalization of that character, and eventually he realized it was killing him, so he had to stop it.
Yeah, and see that stuff was cool too because that was the Warren Ellis 80 Granov run. The cool thing about that is that look was the look from the first movie.
Yeah,
but they didn't go with the Extremis thing, which I would love to see on the big screen. But
I think eventually they will. It's just it's such a story that's kind of like packed and ready to go for a movie. It's self-contained. There's a really weird bad guy in it. A lot of conspiracy stuff. It's just really really dope. Like I just love that visual of like when they first show the bad guy, the extremist character,
right?
Actually go in and like do his first act of terrorism, and he's like shooting fire out of his mouth, and like he's taking down a tank and just like showing what the human body can do.
He's superhuman. Yeah, who unlocked like the entire potential of his brain.
Granov killed it in that.
Yeah, beautiful art, man.
Sadly, we lost him to the world of Hollywood.
That is true. But hey, big bucks.
Making that dough.
That's fine.
John Cassidy also.
He's going to be one of those dudes that's probably going to come back with something fantastic.
I hope so.
Like more so Cassidy than him. I think Cassidy who has like a passion for it,
Yeah, well, yeah, that dude, like whenever I talked to Cassidy, he would always talk about how much he loved like 1940 stuff. Like he loves doing like the golden age pulp stuff. So I think it'd only be so much of Hollywood in his blood.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite Iron Man stories was, I don't know if you remember this one. It was the one where he left one of his old suits of armor on like an island, and it gained sentience.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember that story. There was a lot of good Iron Man stories, man. Like his backlog of stories are really, really slept on.
Yeah, they really are.
He was one of the first dudes that I read when I was a kid. Like my very first comic was a What If Iron Man comic.
What was it?
What If Iron Man was a traitor? It was just about like him, when he builds the armor. And he tries to do this is when he was still in the Korean prison as opposed to the Afghan prison.
Right.
And he tries to escape, and he gets taken down by the dude who ran the prison, and puts like a chip in his brain and sends him off in the world. Right. And he's constantly being communicated with him, so he's going crazy. He's drinking, and like it was just so there was like it's not one of those like crazy what if things where the world blows up or anything. It was just like really like harsh and mean and just like really cold to poor Iron Man.
I could,
I read a lot of Bob Layton stuff, like all the Armor War stuff when they blew him up and all that stuff. Like all that stuff was awesome.
It was also visually stunning too, because then you went from a period of like 40 years where you had like a couple of different armors, and then all of a sudden like you get all these crazy cool Iron Man armors.
Dude.
Centurion, you had like the stealth armor, the rocket armor, the underwater armor. Hulkbuster,
I
think, was also the Layton stuff.
Yeah, I think so. The one of my favorite costumes were always the Silver Centurion.
Yeah,
it's because it's so like I don't know, something about it. When I think it was like I think that's really my era was he started wearing the Silver Centurion, and then he went to that like really cool classic, gold and red again.
Yeah.
It was just so awesome. Like I kind of wish they would do another redesign on him again. I love where the armor is now, but I I got excited when they did Fear itself, and he had the Destroyer armor.
Yeah.
That's my that's my favorite armor out of anything. Like
that is some really cool armor because it's he got the spikes and like he's glowing and
black
shit,
and it looks awesome. It looks like a really really cool costume.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I don't know what the canon is for updating armors because it seems like they've been doing it like every 2 years now. Because the Extremis was what it was for a few years. I think.
Yeah.
Like
that was the
like
go-to armor.
5 years. Yeah, and it was awesome armors. They had like. What was cool about the Extremis armor to me that just popped into my head is that they had that for a very long time, and that was the go-to armor. And then Sideshow came out with that amazing statue.
Yeah, dude.
Of with him in the Extremis armor that lit up.
Yeah. And even now he's like they did a redesign for this costume when he currently wears, but it's still very very close to the basic Extremis armor.
Yeah.
It's got the same metal mask. Me and Rich would always hope that he would transform into Ultron eventually.
Yeah.
We have a weird thing with that because we just want the visual thing of like that mask that he wears now opening up with the Ultron mouth.
That would have been so cool.
Could happen. We got an Ultron storyline coming up soon.
That is true. I can't wait. Captain America and Bucky
sucks.
Number 624. The opposite of sucks.
Dude, it was so good. Like this, I say this with the strongest recommendation. Like Chris Samney, who draws this comic, is incredible.
Yeah.
He is like a little bit out of left field. He's a little cartoonish, a little bit serious. I first read him when he did the Mighty Thor story comic, which was short-lived, only lasted about 8 issues. That was when I first saw this guy's art. This guy is dynamic. He does awesome character studies on people. This book was awesome. It was all focused on Winter Soldier. So you got a lot of cool spy stuff. The opening was awesome. When he's wearing the Captain America costume.
Yeah.
Basically, the story opens up with in
1958.
Yeah, and you kind of think this is Captain America running around. You kind of think it's the crazy Captain America, but he's going around, he's shooting people in the head, and but it's all a simulation where they kind of like built the fake town. It's Bucky wearing the Captain America costume, fighting a bunch of spies. It is awesome.
It's really cool, man, and like Sammy is such a fantastic artist. Where I really appreciate the fact that a lot of these young guys, a lot of these new artists are going with a very Silver Age actual illustrator feel to their work, as opposed to like Jim Lee 1990s, Rob Liefeld, Dan Fraga, Jim Valentino stuff, which was great for what it was worth, but like for my money, man, like all this like Silver Age influence art that's coming out now is the best. It's phenomenal.
So good, man.
Crack open this issue of Cap and Bucky, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. And you have Bucky as a Winter Soldier, and this is when he was programmed to be a murderer.
Yeah, and this is it's kind of a recap of what is leading into like the new Winter Soldier series. Yeah. But the Captain America Bucky book is still going to exist. It's still going to be I don't know if they're going to be in modern day times or what, but like this could be a standalone issue completely. Yeah. This was so rocking hard.
It was awesome.
Like the Black Widow relationship with Bucky was awesome. Even like it was a good way to do a narration where they kind of tell you like why he's been narrating the story this whole time.
Yeah,
because the past few issues have been mostly World War II stories, but it's basically Bucky telling his sister, who's like an old lady now in Alzheimer's hotel, and and she's telling her like all this story so he knows that she won't remember anything.
I think that's an emo band. Well, Alzheimer's Hotel.
Is it?
No.
But it is now.
It's a really good concept, and you have and Brubaker does such a great job. Before the show started, we were talking about how like this guy can infuse a like noir elements into like an awesome espionage story, and it's also like it's such a great concept. It's just a simple concept of the man at a time, and now everybody knows what happened to Captain America. Brubaker's writing canon on Bucky right now, and it's all been solid, and you know what, and like to us, I think because we're huge fans of Brubaker and his run on Cap. We could take a step back and realize that this has been going on for close to 6 years. Like the Winter Soldier stuff and the Captain America stuff, Captain America dying, and like all these seeds have been planted for like most of the 2000s. And it's still fresh.
Yeah, man. And especially like, dude, he brought back Bucky. Like he brought back Bucky and made him one of the most impressive characters in a long time. Mm-hmm. Like he's a great character, and like I love the fact that his hands are bloody. that you have like they brought back Bucky and they went back into his history and said he was the one who did all the killing. Plus you have this really dark past of him being a spy for so long and being an assassin.
Yep.
And it's so good, and visually, like, dude, the Winter Soldier costume and like the look of him is awesome. I mean, you always talk about like he has the fact that he has a cyborg arm is like such a weird like throwback.
It is a throwaway, but I accept it. I'll accept it.
Yeah, but like we always said, like if you feel like this was like a story he came up when he was a kid,
when
he was in the '90s, and like he always had like Brubaker always had in his head like he was gonna have a cyborg arm. Like, it's a weird Cable thing.
Yeah, it's I always feel like characters with any kind of cybernetics are like straight like Cable and any Image comic. There was dudes with cyber stuff on there. Wetworks.
Yeah.
Ripclaw, Bloodstrike, Warblade,
all of Rob Liefeld's characters,
every single
Black
one.
Flag.
Yeah, everybody had Super Patriot had 2 cybernetic arms. Everybody had cybernetic arms, and like you know what, Alex,
wasn't there a dude like,
excellent?
Didn't he? Oh, he had that
Stryker.
Cyberforce, yeah.
Stryker. He had like 3 cybernetics.
And he was great because he was lopsided. He had 3 on one side and then there's the one on the other. It's like, yeah, all these arms.
I feel like a lot of these dudes watch Terminator 2 and we're like, yes.
That's what I want all the time.
Everybody's got crazy eyes.
Robots look cool, man. Like a half cyborg face does look visually cool. A cyborg arm, like, it does look cool.
It does.
It's just
too much. Too much. You know. I wonder if there was like arguments between like the Image guys who were just like, well, my guy's got a cyber arm too. Great.
There's
plenty of room, bro.
That was weird. Like in the '90s when you would have Image and they would slowly start like advertising in the back of the book. So like you'd read a Youngblood. This is before the internet, so you really didn't have any other advertisement for comics. So you'd read a comic and like, you get like Cyberblood coming next month, and everyone was like stacking the next one. Like, oh, dude, that guy's got makeup on his face, and he's got a cybernetic arm. That guy's got 12 arms. I hope I just see one guy that's made of like pouches and arms, and cyborg arms, like a weird like octopus thing.
It's genius because like we were such cogs in the machine. We were the demographic.
Oh, we bought it. Like, loved it. Eat it.
You know, like anything with blood in the name, like, oh, Blood Force 3's got blood, Cyber Bloodman's coming out. Oh, it's fantastic.
Listen, my favorite one, and I still stand by this, it was a decent comic, and I like the idea of it, was Bloodstrike when it first came out, because they were all, it was like a regular, it looked like a regular, like, out of the cookie cutter, Liefeld characters, but the end of the first issue, they revealed that they're all zombies.
I don't think I read that,
dude. It was awesome because there was like a big dude who wore like a cyber. It was like Shogun. He was like a big cybernetic dude. Like he had like a big armor of like he was a little guy in a suit.
Right.
And I think someone ripped him out of the suit like the end of the first issue, and like tore him in half. And the end of the issue is like them carrying them to body parts and gonna reanimate them.
Oh wow.
It was like they were the government. Like they were all these like ex-bad guys who they're reanimating. And it was a cool idea.
Pretty cool.
And like the main dude, Cabal, who is I can't remember. I remember this. Like my brain this is why I'm taking a week off. There was the main character, Cabal, like he was fighting somebody and he ripped off his chest, like ripped out chunks, and the next issue had him stapling his chest pad together because he can't heal and he stinks also because they're rotting corpses.
Wow. I never read this.
This is cool. But the comic ended up like being terrible. Like after a while,
never read this at all. I remember, like Shadowhawk had a big reveal that he was a black dude with AIDS.
Yeah,
and
that was Shadowhawk was good too.
Yeah, real dark.
Yeah, Shadowhawk was really good, and it became a weird like AIDS book.
Yeah, and that was the only thing that
he cures AIDS eventually.
He does, right?
It's like the Shadowhawk
claws.
I like Shadowhawk because he used to break guys' backs.
Yeah.
And the second story, remember the second story of Shadowhawk?
No.
Shadowhawk 2? I remember all the Shadowhawk stuff. Shadowhawk 2, he fought a guy named Hawk Shadow, who was like a white dude wearing like, because the good thing about Shadowhawk is you didn't know who he was. Like, there's a big mystery about him.
Yeah.
So Hawk Shadow was a guy who was trying to, kind of match the same stuff that Shadowhawk was doing.
Yeah.
But he was a murderer, like a terrible murderer, even though Shadowhawk was breaking guys' backs. Like he was crippling everybody. And the second issue, he's like, I'm doing it for you, Shadowhawk. He ends up fighting him. And he's like, and then you realize he's a terrible racist and he works for the KKK. And then he took his mask off and he's like, I'm black.
I think I do remember that.
It was like the big reveal. It's like, he's a black guy.
I do. Because it had the cover. It had like that the cover of him taking the mask off and you kind of see a little bit of
little
afro.
black. Yeah, a little black.
And that we were the demographic. It was just like cybernetics, blood, crazy shit happening all the time. On the other side of the fence, you had Valiant, which was the older man's demographic,
and which is also equally just as violent, if not more violent.
Exo Manowar, Rye, Archer and Armstrong, Shadow Man, two of the craziest books on earth.
Yo, what was Harbinger? Harbinger was nuts, amazing.
Yeah.
I still think the first 25 issues of Harbinger are like some of the best team stuff they ever did.
Yeah.
And people died in those books all the time.
Mm-hmm. Hard Corpse also you had.
Hard Corpse was awesome. Plus, dude, I still attest to this that the Image Valiant crossover Deathmate, the Valiant issues were rocking.
They were
like, and they were really like, they threw the shit against the wall.
You had a lot of Jim Lee stuff going on with that too.
Yeah,
because they had like Deathmate red, black, and then like silver, and then
silver, blue, gold,
whatever.
Blue and gold, I think, were the two ones from Valiant. They were awesome. The Image stuff was a little bit like more imagey. Like the Valiant stuff was, if you weren't reading Valiant regularly, you were like, holy shit, this stuff is like really violent because it was such clean stuff compared to the Valiant, the Image stuff. The Image stuff was so visceral, and like Valiant had guys in jumpsuits.
Yeah, because a lot of those guys were like based on classic, like Magnus Robot Fighter.
Elementals was awesome. Elementals from Bill and Wilhelm from Comico.
Didn't read it.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
That was always in the comic store, and you would always go, I don't want to read that.
There's a lot of books like that. I was like,
I was the same way. I was the same exact way. Didn't Comico put out Grendel early on? And Mage?
I don't know.
Comico's a weird company.
Oh man, I'm having like a weird like brain thing.
I get weird brain things sometimes.
Because you had, before Dark Horse, you had Grendel, you had Mage, you had Next Men, and there was like a few more titles that are like kind of like up and out before Dark Horse took over.
A lot of Ultraverse.
And even still now, like I feel like Dark Horse is the big independent publisher.
Yeah.
Because they have like such solid, like cool stuff that has nothing to do with anything else in their line.
Are they still considered independent?
Who?
Dark Horse.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, they've gotten much larger than they
absolutely.
were.
Yeah. Dude, before they published Star Wars, they were just making money off of a little bit of money off of like Dark Horse Presents and Hellboy stuff.
Yeah,
which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we will. On with the books though, so we can get to the Hellboy stuff. Another Shattered Heroes tie-in or banner thing. Mighty Thor number 8. Awesome issue. The first issue, solid issue with Tannerus, the new God of Thunder.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. This was a great Fallout book in terms of the new world they're building of new Asgard they're building. Mm-hmm. Plus you have Tannerus or Tannerus, whatever you want to call him. Who's just a total dick. He was just like, he's a real schmuck when it comes to like saving people. Yeah. His hammer makes me feel really uncomfortable.
It looks like a cane.
Yeah, it's weird. But the best part of it is the fact they kind of give you the insight on what Tannerus is, like who he really is. And this whole thing is a ruse set up by the Norn Queen Carnilla.
I think so, and the King of Trolls.
King of Trolls, which I'm not even trying to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
That Tannerus is really Ulick.
The troll,
which is one of my favorite old Thor villains because he had those brass knuckles.
Yeah, it was Carnilla.
It was Carnilla.
Yeah,
I can't remember this stuff.
So yeah, you have like Carnilla, and the ruse on the Asgardians is not so much the fact that it's Ulick, it's the fact that everybody's memories are wiped of Thor, and they're replaced with memories of Ulick. So if you thought if you were in Asgard and
as Tannerus,
right?
Yeah.
If you were in Asgard and you were if you were trying to remember that Thor battle that happened, Tannerus would pop in your head.
Or if you thought about they had used the first meaning of the Avengers, it was Tannerus instead of Thor.
And Fear itself also.
And what's cool is Loki doesn't. He remembers. He knows that something's wrong. Right. He knows that Tannerus is not his brother, but he doesn't remember Thor.
Right. Yeah. There's that scene where he's like, "You're not my brother," and he's like, "I am. I don't know what's wrong with this guy."
This jerk over here.
And then he leaves. And then you have also, which I'm glad they kind of threw into the Thor universe right now, is Silver Surfer trying to get a job as a human.
Awesome. Awesome. So good. Yeah. So awesome.
And he goes on this giant speech of how he surfed the spaceways and how he can see ions shattered between between his eyes, and he can do all this crazy stuff. And the guy's like, "Do you know how to work a grill?" And he's like, "I don't know what that is."
He's like, what's the exact line? It's really, really well done.
He's like, "All right, you understand how to fry an egg?" And he's like, "How to do what to a what?"
It's really good. I'm glad they kept him around in the book. I don't know where they're going with this sort of stuff because it's so out of left field.
Yeah.
But it's really, really cool stuff.
I also feel like Hemdale is going to be a big part of this too, because they have him interacting with the three goddesses.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be the first one to realize that Ulick is Daenerys.
Yeah.
And also, like, the three goddesses, who now rule over Asgard are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Is that where we're going with that?
I don't know. I think there's going to be a power struggle.
Yeah.
That's when Odin decides to come back. And you have like a really crazy ass ending too.
Ooh, that's my favorite part too.
With you have Thor. Thor's still alive somewhere, and he wakes up and he's real skinny. He's like real like sickly. It looks like I guess like they sapped him of his Thor body, and he wakes up in like a weird dimension, and it's not Valhalla.
No, he's like basically like in Oblivion. These and the last page is like him on a ship being consumed by Demogorge, which is like an old character. Like he's the God Eater, and his job is to guess what? Eat gods.
Yeah,
and that's what he's gonna do. The first time I saw this guy was in like the old backups for Atlantis Attacks.
Right. Oh,
when they do like the Serpent Crown stories, and he was like the guy who ate like the sun god. He was like he was a sun god who. It was like a Hulk thing where he transformed the Demogorge.
Right.
Demogorge, who was an awesome looking character. He was like Juggernaut with wings.
So yeah, I mean, like the last page of the issue is Thor flying into the mouth of what looks like a giant whale with like a predator mouth.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
And like it's so crazy because you wouldn't think to me it's like it's Thor and Asgard and like Earth stuff mixed in with like this crazy Star Trek sci-fi element. Ever since like he started doing like the surfer stuff and like it got real cosmic, and now it's like you have awesome journeys. You have like 3 plots now.
Yeah, and they also played into the fact that he's still alive because of the last Galactus story.
Yep.
He's got this wound that was like leaking out like cosmic energy, and now Thor is kind of alive because of that.
And Don Blake shows up in it.
Don Blake, which doesn't make any sense because he's Thor.
Yep. And I think that's going to be the gateway to bring him back.
Yep.
It's got to be.
Dude, this was like a really stacked high comic for an issue that is right out of a major crossover, written by Matt Fraction, who also wrote Iron Man this week and Fear Itself.
Yeah.
He just finished 7.3 as of last week for Fear Itself, and the book just rocked, and there was so much going on, and it never felt like you were too confused or too weirded out by it.
Not at all. And you know what? It's up to issue 8. And the stuff that they established in it so far is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I feel like when, like, my head's going to explode, I feel like when there's like the eventual reveal and the eventual, like, hey, I'm Thor, I'm in your memories, and Thanos is like, I'm really in your memories, it's going to make every Asgardian's head explode.
Yeah, dude.
Except for Loki. And I also think this is when this is going to have Loki turn again.
Yeah, I think they've been building up Loki to be. He already is a really tragic character.
Yeah,
that's going to be the ultimate thing. Is where he's going to reveal that that this is really not Thor, that Thor actually exists, and he's going to be the bad guy again.
I think so. I think that's
as long as they keep him as a kid, I'm happy.
I think they're going to make him old man Like he's going to sacrifice himself again. Like
I just love it so much. Yeah, but I agree with you. I know that's going to be eventually coming.
Like he sacrifices his goodness to bring his brother back, and he becomes like the piece of crap Loki.
I don't want to be a piece of crap anymore. He's so good.
I mean, they do so much like cool Loki Thor stuff. Like I remember that Esad Ribic miniseries that came out a while ago, where it actually ended with Thor smashing Loki's head in.
Dude, that was awesome. Yeah, if you want to quit like a good solid, $14 comic to pick up the Loki miniseries. That is solid, dude.
It's beautifully drawn, excellently written, and it's Loki taking over Asgard, and he has the final battle with Thor.
Yeah, dude. And it re-examines their relationship and everything, and it just really is like it's number one. It's beautiful to look at. And it's very, very well written.
And on that note, too, pick up Thor Vikings by Garth Ennis because that's brutal.
The best, the best. I think that's my favorite Thor story. Like that's not like Walt Simonson Thor.
Yeah. Actual like undead Vikings show up at New York City harbors, and Thor has to deal with them.
Beat the shit out of Thor.
And they're like, who are you supposed to be? And he's like, I'm your god of thunder. And they're like, no, you're not, bro.
Yeah, dude. I just remember that one panel where and it's Glenn Fabry doing the art on it. It's really hardcore,
which makes you super uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's very visceral, like very in your face. But the best is when Thor tries to hit him with the hammer and his arm breaks.
Yeah.
because he can't. He's these guys are magically stronger than him. It was so awesome, dude.
It was really good, man. I think the last book of the week is a gigantic book that we're gonna have to talk about.
I think it's gonna take the rest of the half hour.
If it does, it does.
I'm
man.
cool with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that too. Fantastic Four number 600 came out
Huge
this
book.
week. This is 100 pages.
100 pages of story.
100 pages of story. Usually,
$8.
$8. Usually, when Marvel does stuff like this, you'll get maybe 25 pages of story, and it's all reprints.
Yeah, I was saying before the show started, I read this issue, and this is a big culmination of like all the Jonathan Hickman stuff they've been writing for the last 2 years now of Fantastic Four.
A little more than that.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff coming to a head, and then the issue ends with this big reveal of Johnny Storm coming back to life, but he's never really dead. And when it ended, when that part of it ended, I was like, shit, I want more, because I thought it was going to be more supplemental crap. I thought it was going to be a reprint, maybe a character study and some preview pages, but no. Like, Jonathan Hickman went out of his way and produced 100 pages of work.
Yep. 100 pages of story, man. That's almost
all new stuff.
And again, I feel like it's a little under the radar for a lot of comic fans.
Yeah, it is.
Because, they're not, the Fantastic Four has never been part of that big, like, family of heroes that, Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, even though they're the first family, and it's quote unquote the world's greatest comic magazine, which, after Hickman's run, absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
I look forward to all the Fantastic Four stuff every month because of the way Hickman's written it. And, when the original run ended, you had Johnny Storm dying, and it felt like a finite death almost, where like, they're going to bring him back. You didn't quite know how, but the way they brought him back in this issue was tremendous.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, when they switched the book to FF, before, like, this Fantastic Four hasn't existed since this issue, in 12 months. I said for, this definitely going to bring this back when it's number 600, but even knowing that, I'm still surprised by it. And it's a great story. Like what happened to Giant Storm this whole time. Well,
it's also the like just how he came back, and now like the position he's in.
Yeah, dude.
Coming back because he Annihilus was about to breach into our world, and Annihilus is the master of the negative zone because he has the cosmic control rod.
And he's a scummy little kid now too,
which controls all life in the negative zone. So Johnny Storm sacrificed himself to take on this entire group of this entire like zone of
the Annihilation Wave,
bug people. Which is like the Annihilation Wave. And in this issue, we learn that first of all, you get the reveal like Spidey actually he's the first one to find him.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
and he looks awesome. They really amped it up with Johnny Storm in this issue.
And the first thing Spidey's in the white outfit, and Johnny Storm's like, "Hey, Peter, what's up with your costume,
dude?" That's the thing I really want them to do. Is I really want them to keep these white costumes. Yeah. I think they look so cool. I love the classic blue and black Fantastic Four costumes.
Yeah,
but these look awesome, and I like Johnny Storm's new look, man.
Yeah. He has the. For those of you that didn't pick up the issue, if you can imagine it, he's basically wearing like a Black Bolt costume with the cosmic control rod attached to his arm. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah. That he has a strap to his arm because he has all that like gross bug crap all over. Yeah, he has like what happened when Johnny Storm died and Annihilus's doctors kept resurrecting him,
putting worms on his body.
Putting worms into his body, and they would like stitch him from the inside out, and he became like a gladiator.
Yeah,
and it's really cool that they didn't take a million issues to explain that.
Dude, what's great about it is that he returns at the like that story ends. The beginning of Fantastic Four story ends, and it goes into a new story, also done by Jonathan Hickman, about his time spent in the negative zone.
Right.
It's like the whole book feels like one big novel. There's a lot of chapters involved in this.
There really is, and like you have. It's hard. It's really hard to break it down and actually make sense of it. But you have the Fantastic Kids who teleport top of the Baxter Building away.
Oh, it's awesome.
Which leads into Spidey checking on the kids and finding Johnny Storm at the portal of the negative zone, and then you have the Doctor Doom stuff too, which was only like a little bit where they meet Kristoff, which is Doom's clone son.
He was another gypsy kid who was adopted by Doom.
Okay.
Was brainwashed to think that he's an adult Doom.
Right.
Like he's basically standing in as Doom to rule over Latveria.
Right. And this is dumb Doom also. Like Doom is like
Dumb Doom is smarter than us.
Like Dumb Doom is smarter than this, but he's like brain damaged as opposed to like super smart Doom, and he's with one of the alternate universe Reed Richards. So they meet Kristoff, and you don't know what's gonna go on there. And then you have this other subplot. This like the Fantastic Four stuff is full of subplots. You have another one with what's up, Coco? You have another one with the Supreme Intelligence coming back.
That's cool, and the fact that Supreme Intelligence is made up of 2 other Reeds from other universes. That's the hardest thing to talk about Fantastic Four is talking about Fantastic Four, because like I was trying to talk to OFB about this, and he you're trying to stack up all this stuff is so difficult, because you have the Ronin, you have the Inhumans, and then you try to explain the people Johnny Storms meets in the Light Brigade inside the Negative Zone, who are like the husbands of the lost husbands of the other queens of the Inhuman cities.
Right.
There's this is so much cool stuff. And what's great about this comic too is for the first year of Fantastic Four, they were all standalone issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they were not throwaways at all. They were all really building towards a larger story. And this is totally the payoff of it.
Yeah.
And it's not even done yet. You think this would be the climax of all that stuff?
Nope.
You still have Galactus coming. You still have the Inhuman War. You still have the Kree wrecking shit. You still have the Annihilation stuff. There's still stuff. You have the Nathaniel Richards stuff. You have the other Reed stuff, the Doom stuff. It's there's a lot to juggle. But Hickman has a total grasp,
hold on it,
and it never again. This doesn't feel folded in. It doesn't feel like it's pressed in.
Yeah.
It's strong writing.
It really is,
especially for an anniversary issue.
Yeah, and you know what? You may be, it's not as boring as me and Jonathan and I cannot express how excellent and how excellently woven this story has been. And this Jonathan Hickman has a million things going on, and this Fantastic Four 600 is a 100-page issue, chock full of stuff. But at the same time, again, it's not boring at all.
No.
It doesn't seem trite at all.
No.
I don't even think it's the tip of the iceberg at this point.
No, dude, he's gonna be on this book for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Jonathan Hickman fan. We've talked about it on the show before. Secret Warriors was incredible, and that was another book that he juggled a lot of characters and a lot of plot lines all at once. This is a masterstroke.
Yeah,
this book should be terrible in terms of how much you're juggling, but it really feels well paced. It's one of the smartest paced books that are out there.
It really is, and you have
the art teams are amazing, dude.
The art teams are amazing, and it just seems like you have plot after plot thrown on top of each other, because you have Johnny Storm coming back, which is one thing, but now he's in control of the Annihilation Wave. He's essentially the master of the Negative Zone,
which is cool. Also, with the Negative Zone thing is how they revealed kind of the nature of the Negative Zone, how it's all about death and rebirth. No one can really die in the Negative Zone.
Right.
That's why Annihilus keeps on coming back over and over again.
And he can't burn because he has the rod.
Yeah.
And Johnny's just destroying everybody in the Negative Zone. And he has these such a weird group of characters, a horseman. There's an Alpha Centurion.
There's 2 Alpha Centaurians. There's that steel Alpha Centaurian, and there's a chick. There's the other one.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 dire wraiths.
Right.
One who has the power of the sun.
Right.
Who gets possessed by the Annihilus Wave.
I love the fact that Marvel has a nice establishment of
they have such cooler
of space guys.
Aliens.
Yeah, they do. What?
I'm giving you a time check.
Okay, cool. This is gonna take up the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then another crazy bit about this is the you have a little Black Bolt is back, essentially on Earth, and he has a ton of wives, and he's the leader of the Kree.
Yeah, kind of. Well,
that's one of the things I'm a little shaky on.
Well, in other issues of, I think the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that, they've established that there's been a split between the Kree and the Humans, because for a long period of time, the Inhumans have basically the ruling party of the Kree, because they are an offshoot of them.
They're supposed to be better than the Kree.
Yeah, I think the Inhumans have stayed with the Humans, and the Krees have gone with the Krees. So Ronan and Crystal are basically ruling over the Kree Empire, or what's left of it, because they've been blown up a million times.
Well, you have 2 things that go along with that. Is one, the fact that Ronan, the Supreme Intelligence, comes back and he's a jerk, and
he's always a jerk. He murders millions of people.
Yeah, and that's what he wants to do. He's going to send Ronan to Earth to destroy it, to get rid of the final things that could kill him.
The final countdown.
The final countdown. Europe's going to show up, and And you have like Crystal, who falls in love with Ronan, which was like kind of like a marriage, not by choice. They wanted to unite their races.
Now they're a sweet couple.
And then you're gonna have the coming interaction of Crystal meeting with Black Bolt and the Inhuman royal family again.
Yeah.
One really awesome thing, and I think this is probably the first time they've ever done this, is that Medusa, who's the long-haired wife of Black Bolt,
she does have long hair,
is the only one who can understand him. You know?
Yeah.
And they go into this whole thing where, like, apparently when they communicate with each other up close, they go into a crazy ass dimension.
And damn, does Black Bolt look cool?
You know? And he looks awesome. He looks like a burnt match with like a Black Bolt costume on. And this is how they talk. And he can talk in this dimension because, like, you know, as we all know, Black Bolt's power is that when he talks, he's super loud.
He is very loud. He has no concept of his own speaking voice.
He's super loud. He can destroy planets with a whisper. And which I thought was such a phenomenal concept for a character.
Dude, and he's so visually cool.
Yeah.
Like, he really is, like, he is in the echelon of, like, Marvel superheroes, like, best costumes.
Yeah. Again, under the
radar. And he's got the fork.
And he has a crazy awesome tuning
which
fork.
all the Light Brigade does also.
And Lockjaw.
And Lockjaw has the fork as well.
He's married to Lockjaw has a wife somewhere.
Well, they always had a weird like subplot with Inhumans where they weren't sure if Lockjaw was a mutated like human,
right?
Like an Inhuman or like a mutated dog. And they finally said like, don't feel bad for him. He's not a slave. He's actually a real dog.
Yeah,
because people were like saying, you know, he's his life is terrible. He's a miserable like gigantic dog man who teleports him around.
They do. You know what? Like I forgot what
wasn't Lockjaw was on the team for a while. It was on Fantastic Four.
He was.
He was with Franklin Richards' dog.
They did a really awesome Lockjaw story where nobody wanted to play with him, and he kept teleporting to different parts of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And then I forgot where he ended up.
A lot of places.
Yeah, I think it was with Luna, maybe.
Luna. Oh yeah. The Quicksilver's kid.
They did so much crazy stuff with the Inhumans over the last few years. Like you had,
they've done a lot. I think they've done some of the most important stuff too to the Inhumans.
Yeah, and with the the X Factor, that wasn't an X Factor. No, I'm thinking of something else. When Quicksilver, there was no more mutants.
Son of M.
Yeah,
I was thinking about it the other day. That was an awesome story.
It was. Quicksilver, after Scarlet Witch destroyed all the mutants, Quicksilver lost his powers and took it upon himself to get powers back from mutants, steals the Terrigen Mist from the Inhumans, which gives the Inhumans their power, and starts to become like a mutant, like crappy doctor, saying like, I'll give you your powers back with these Terrigen Mist. And what did he do? He like shoved the crystals into his body?
To give himself his own powers back. And he was like a super power. He was like the Flash, basically. He was, he moved at the speed of thought.
Yeah. Great stuff. And
what's great about that stuff, they still mention it, like in Avengers Academy.
Yeah.
And he did all this terrible stuff as and House of M and all this, it's all kind of blamed Quicksilver. And because of Secret Invasion, he blamed a Skrull.
Right. And nobody believes him.
Yeah, Magneto called him out and said like I know it's not. Yeah, you're not doing that, dude.
No. That last issue of Avengers Academy was fantastic.
Rocking.
Too. Yeah. Magneto visits the school, and it's really good. If you're not picking up Avengers Academy, shame on you. You should.
You're an asshole.
Yeah. Anyway, so
it's becoming more of a bad guy.
You have
New Year's resolution. We're gonna switch roles.
Why are you saying these things? So, and then if that wasn't enough, you still have two more plot points here. One, Galactus telling Reed Richards like, "Hey, here's this thing that you can use to summon me whenever you want, because that dead Galactus is me, but there's a Galactus seed in the Earth,
which he just did in Mighty Thor."
Right. Yeah, that was like the Starheart or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the Thor universe, they hid the baby Galactus in the World Tree, and now Galactus is telling Reed Richards, like, look, if that thing gets shaken loose, like, I'm gonna have a hard time finding it. So if you need my help, I
wish Galactus spoke like that.
It's just like a self-aware.
Guys, I'm really hungry.
He's just a guy trying to get through the day.
It's got a lot of pressure. And what's cool too is like they don't really talk about Galactus' origin too often. Mm-mm. And they did a nice like 2-page spread of Galactus, like how he was born from the old universe. And you see him like the armor going around him, and like, dude, it's Galactus. Like, is like one of my favorite visual characters.
Mm. There's so much to be done with Galactus. I feel like Galactus is the you can't give too much. You have to do the slow burn with Galactus.
I think there's a lot of story not to be told about Galactus. Yeah. I would love to see Galactus as a shorter cook. Like that would be awesome. Like if he got shrunken down and he had to work with Silver Surfer as shorter cooks. Oh, there's a comic book in there somewhere.
There's a comic in there. There's a sitcom in there too, because Silver Surfer would make the orders and Galactus would eat them all.
And Silver Surfer could promote first.
Right, exactly.
And then it would really, really piss off Galactus. And he'd be obese.
And he would call, and Silver Surfer would call him his herald.
And he would paint his face purple.
Exactly.
Like, why is he going to work with his face purple?
It writes itself. So
it does. It really does.
Yeah. So you have Galactus showing up, and he's gigantic. But you see little Galactus too. Remember they did that another Fantastic Four story where it was them taking Galactus around as Galen around the streets of New York.
Oh yeah,
like showing him like, hey,
that
listen,
was awesome.
Here's the best city in the world. Like, and he's just like
hot dogs.
I'm gonna eat like 10 hot dogs.
More hot dogs.
So, as you can see, like Fantastic Four is a great tradition, and it's getting even better.
Well, dude, all this stuff comes from it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's great is they kind of drew back Galactus. They always comes back to Fantastic Four.
I really like the sweet ending of the book too. The last story was.
I love this story. My favorite artist, if you can pronounce his name, Farrell Demple.
Dalrymple.
Yeah,
Dalrymple.
he did that on Making the Unknowns comic that came out a few years ago.
Yes.
His style is like really like out there and kooky.
It's cool. It's very like indie, very like I don't want to say Evan Dorkin, but
A little bit. I'll give it that.
what do you call it? The guy?
The guy.
The guy.
The guy.
Crumb.
Yeah, dude. It's like
Crumb.
it's very much an independent style of work.
But you have the little end to this giant 100-page issue is Nathaniel Richards. If you don't know out there,
You're an asshole.
Is essentially he's like a god boy, and he can create reality. He can uncreate reality and create reality. And that's what he kind of comes to a realization of, like, not of his own future self. So apparently he creates a little universe, gets scared that his dad will find out, and sticks it in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
And then he uses this universe to play superhero with his buddy Leech, who's an old X-Men character who does not age, apparently.
No.
Because he was around when, remember the original New Mutants?
Yeah, dude.
And he was still a kid, and now he's still the same age.
Yeah, man. He was like, I think his first appearance was like Exterminators, like that weird.
I love that book.
Yeah, dude.
There's Artie and Leech.
Yeah. And like Artie and Leech are both on the extended FF family now.
Yeah.
And what's cool, also a little nod that they do is he has this other universe, and him and Leech become like superheroes for it.
Right.
And he calls himself Hyperstorm, which was a throwback to like the really shitty era of Fantastic Four when Franklin Richards grows up and becomes a bad guy.
Yeah.
And his name is Hyperstorm.
It's insane.
And what's cool also is that he at the very end he has like some like light constructed dude talking to him and saying like, you know what, you can be the best superhero out there. And if you remember earlier in the FF run, that's Johnny Storm from the future telling him that he needs to step it up.
Was it Johnny Storm? Or was it himself from the future telling him?
No, it's Johnny Storm. Yeah, because like early in the Fantastic Four run because he's the one that first says like you have powers.
Right.
Like he's the one that realized that he still has powers. Because for a long time, Franklin Richards didn't. They said he didn't have powers. He didn't realize he had powers anymore because he's way too powerful. Because he is a god boy, and it's a weird Johnny Storm construct, which is a good bookend to where Johnny Storm is right now in the negative zone.
Right. It's awesome. It's an awesome little bit, and I like the very end of it too, where the Light Man tells him like, "Hey, you know what that makes you, right?" And he's just like, he doesn't say like, "Oh, it makes me God." He's like, "All right, man, I gotta go. I'll see you later."
Does that make Leech God?
And I don't know. That makes Leech the devil, which I'd read that. I'd read that book.
So good.
And they go and eat sandwiches like in every Marvel book. I think they require at least 40 sandwich shots per month.
They do have to have a lot of sandwiches in there. Avengers is built on sandwiches.
It is. Avengers Mansion is built out of sandwiches. You know what? There's so much cool stuff they can do with this, and like especially with the little Richards kid. What's his name? I forgot.
Little
his
Richard.
name again.
Little Richard. Medium Richard.
Yeah. So Franklin Richards. One of my favorite Franklin Richards moments is the reveal. I think it was in Universe X or Earth X, or was it?
Yeah. Well, I feel like they're going to go to this eventually.
That he's going to become Galactus.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
I kind of thought that was where they're going to go with the Galactus talk, that they were going to say like, because he says something about like, what do you think your son's doing? There's a weird case because it was either Earth X or Universe X. It was like the first or second one where they reveal in the future. This is all like a alternate continuity.
Yeah.
That current Galactus is Franklin Richards.
Yeah.
To save the world, he became Galactus because there has to be Galactus.
And then he gets unmasked at the end.
Yeah.
And it's him. But you know what? Like I thought they were gonna do that when they did when they showed Galactus's corpse. I thought that was gonna be the Earth
Me too.
X Galactus.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's from the Mark Miller run.
Yes.
They pulled it from the other like Counter Earth.
If you haven't read Earth X or Paradise X or Universe X,
idiot,
read it.
You're an idiot.
Dude,
it's probably $10. It's probably like the whole run could probably be about $10.
That's probably right.
Dude, I've bought Earth X, Universe X, and Paradise X over and over again because it's so awesome. I keep on giving it to people.
And just keep ripping it up.
Just tearing it in half.
So great.
I don't rip up the telephone books, just Earth X copies.
We gotta do like a bit. Next time we do like an extended show.
Yeah. We gotta
like,
talk about Earth X.
We gotta do like a whole Earth X thing. Andrew, you ever read Earth X?
No.
Dude,
you'd love it.
It's like it's the whole story is basically it's the worst possible nightmare of a future for Marvel Universe.
Everybody has powers.
Yeah, there's a huge thing where every single person.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Everyone gets superpowers, and what's great is when one of them are born, it's this little like Nazi kid called the Red Skull, but he's wearing a red Punisher costume. He has he's such a powerful telepath that when his power activates, he kills every single telepath in the world.
Yeah.
So like Professor X is dead, and like Jean Grey is dead. There's one of my favorite Wolverine moments are in that comic. Dude, Earth X. The whole like it's Earth X, Universe X, and Paradise X. And
it's narrated by Machine Man, who is a robot who's getting trained by the Watcher to be his replacement.
The new Watcher.
And that was such a cool visual because he
and
was
Manwolf was there too.
Yes. Yeah, that was J. Jonah Jameson's kid.
I know I think we both agree that our favorite moment though was the Nightcrawler Belasco stuff.
Oh, forget it. That's the one thing that always sticks in my head, like the Nightcrawler Belasco stuff, and the I really enjoyed the Loki reveal too, where he was like, why don't you look like Loki? And he's like, listen, we're gods because people believe in us, and they put different they think of us different ways. So if nobody believes in me, I look like this.
And I like the explanation they had for the gods too, that they're like basically the first mutants. They're not really gods. They're just very powerful superhumans that were projected to be gods.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so that's what's so great about Earth X, and I think that's why we love it so much, is because it explains everything in the Marvel Universe. It puts extra meaning behind it.
It does. And you had
nerdy.
It's really nerdy, and you have like really cool stuff where you kind of it was like the ultimate almost what if story, and you had like Peter Parker was like a chubby cop.
Yeah.
Wolverine was married to Jean Grey's clone, and all he did was like hang out and like drink beer and watch TV.
Got fat.
Yeah.
He got fat, and she has a great moment where he thinks it's Jean Grey,
right?
And she's leaving. He's like, "You don't do anything," and she's walking out. And she's like, "Well, I'm not really Jean. I'm Alan."
Yeah,
and it's just like a great solid moment. And that was kind of what they wanted just it to be, because that was like the limited amount of Wolverine they wanted to do. But they used Wolverine later with the in Universe X when they do that awesome like Exiles type team of alternate reality characters like Iron Man 2020 and Deathlock. And Hyperion. Dope stuff, man.
It's really good stuff. And I think one of the plot points was like, what would you do if you're a hero and you have everything you wanted?
Yeah.
And that was the Wolverine bit where like he finally got to marry Jean Grey, so like he stopped fighting.
Yeah.
And then Captain America, that visual was fantastic.
Yeah, man. Dude. It also makes you feel really uncomfortable
because he had the A carved into his head.
Yeah, and he's partially naked. And he's a really old dude.
Yeah, yeah.
There's just so much like the Iron Avengers and there's no Avengers anymore, so it's a bunch of Iron Man suits that are made to look like the old Avengers, like you have like Quicksilver and
Giant Man,
Wasp. Yeah, dude,
they were all controlled by a really old crippled Tony Stark,
who was like a weird like Howard Hawks who lived inside of a gigantic Red Ronin costume.
Howard Hughes.
Did I say Howard Hawks?
Howard Hawks,
the director.
I love the fact that Jean Grey loses her telekinesis power, marries Wolverine, and they both gain significant weight.
Oh, she's a big fat.
Yeah.
She's a big fatty fat.
Why'd they both get fat?
Well, his healing factor stopped working on him, and she's a clone.
Yeah.
They reveal that's actually Malin Pryor. Jean Grey is dead.
Oh,
and she's fat.
Completely dead.
I love the fact that Iceman has to move to the North Pole because he'll melt.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite ones was the Wendigo stuff. That Africa is overpopulated by. There's like a region in Wakanda where like they can't go too far because there's tons of Wendigos.
Right.
And they find out that the reason why some Wendigos is they sent out one of Madrox's, one of the multiple men, and
he's infected.
He went out there and he was dying, and he made a clone of himself and ate the other clone.
Right.
And that's how he got the Wendigo back. Because the Wendigo thing is when you engage in cannibalism, you turn to Wendigo.
Right.
Which is an awesome idea.
Wendigo is sometimes underused character in the Marvel
Dude, they don't use enough Wendigo. Wendigo showed up in Wolverine X-Men this week.
He did, and so did Sauron. Sauron's been dead for a while too.
Sauron's been really dead. They used Soren for too long, but like Soren's a great character visually. He's just like a giant pterodactyl man.
Yeah,
with vampire powers.
It was cool. X-Men also very weird rogues gallery.
Yeah, dude. Well, especially now, like, dude, they have Frankenstein's in the comic.
Frankenstein, Krakatoa, but even like they always had like just like a bunch of weirdos, man, like Sauron and Nimrod, Bastion.
Yeah, a lot of robot dudes.
Just guys who were super powerful.
They did a lot of Stryker over the years.
They did. A lot of super powerful dudes who didn't like mess with the rest of the Marvel universe, except for Magneto. Magneto was like I think the only guy who barely messed with like the Avengers. You know?
Yeah, but they you know what? They've done such a good job with Magneto over the last few years of putting him back into the Marvel universe and actually making him a believable good guy because he still talks about being a bad guy. He's like, you know what? I had reason to do it.
I really like the way that they're writing him now, where they do like those nods where he was like, I would have done this differently.
Yeah, man.
I would have been dead.
Yeah.
I would have put a penny through that guy's head, even though pennies aren't magnetic.
I would love to see him put a penny through someone's head.
Yeah, I was gonna rip out the metal in Wolverine's bones again. I think it's what it's all leading up to. It's gonna lead up to him doing that to Wolverine again.
I think that since they have all these villains on the team, I think they're gonna go hardcore with them.
Yeah,
and really like have a turning point where they probably do become villains.
He should do it to X-23. Rip the metal out of her bones. And that's it. I hate X-23. That's one thing.
She's all right. They've written her very well. Like in X-Force, they wrote her very well, and now she's going to be in Avengers Academy. She's grown on me.
Yeah.
But on the surface level, like if I see an advertisement for X-23 showing in a book, I'm like, ugh.
That's always a groan for me, because like in my head, I think about it in a different way where I'm like, what do you do with the most popular character in your franchise? Make him a chick, then make it even more popular.
I'm very, very happy that they kind of wrote out the fact that she has spikes coming out of her feet.
They don't do that anymore?
No.
No?
They never I haven't done that in a very long period of time. Okay. Because that was one of the dumbest things. Like, really guess what? She's only got 2 claws and...
third claw's on her foot.
On the foot.
Yeah.
Stupid.
That's it. All right. And on that note, this has been another episode of Behind the Counter. I'm your host, Rich Stambolian.
And I'm the one who knocks.
Good night.